Within these pages, you will not find mere words, but fragments of an ancient song that has crossed the vast oceans of time. Sonur, the keeper of silence, whispers from the shadows of the centuries, and his teachings, preserved by soul walkers, travel like winged seeds, seeking fertile soil in the hearts of those who dare to listen. What slips between the letters here does not belong to this moment, not even to this world. It is the echo of a wisdom that was born before the first dawns, before the earth took shape and the sky turned blue. It is not a knowledge that needs to be believed to unfold its dance. Just as the moon does not ask permission to guide the tides, nor does the sun require human applause to ignite each new day. There is a secret music that sustains all that is, a symphony woven by invisible hands. That melody continues, unchanging, even when men forget its existence. Those who have known how to close their eyes and listen beyond the noise of the world have felt its vibration in moments where time seems to stand still. When contemplating a star dying on the horizon, when brushing against the skin of an ancient tree, or when immersing themselves in the gaze of someone who has known unconditional love. That whisper is the breath of the all, the luminous intelligence that orchestrates the flight of every bird, the blossoming of every petal, the precise fall of every raindrop on the thirsty earth. It is what the ancients called the golden thread, the unbreakable essence that connects all beings in a web of purpose and destiny. And yet, this wisdom is not a discovery, but a memory. A sacred memory that sleeps deep within the blood and bones, waiting to be awakened. The ancestors of the spirit, those who walked among mountains and deserts, speaking to the winds and understanding the language of stones, possessed no more power than you. They simply remembered what should never have been forgotten. On this path that now opens before you, you will find no shortcuts, because every step is part of the lesson. You will learn to read the signs in the clouds, to listen to the teachings in the bird songs, to understand that every shadow reveals the presence of a light. You will be given an invisible map, drawn not with ink, but with intuitions, hunches, and flashes of truth that will be born in the quietest corners of your being. This ancient art, of shaping reality with silent words and pure intention, is not a game for those seeking to dominate, but a calling for those who wish to serve the balance of the world. For those who learn to move the hidden waters must also know how to calm the storms they may awaken. Remember, every creation brings with it a responsibility, like every fire, capable of warming or destroying. Do not fear this truth. If it has reached you, it is because, from before your first breath, the great current had designated you as a weaver of destinies. Let this text be a mirror in which you recognize the immensity that dwells within you. Let the words caress the memories of other lives, other suns, and other names. The time has come to remember the sacred pact. You are not a leaf blown by the wind, but the wind itself. And he who knows his nature never gets lost again. Before continuing with the video, if you want to do this in secret and watch how the universe delivers you the impossible, I recommend you watch the first link in the description. Chapter 1. The Murmur Before the Name. There was a place where the wind whispered old songs as it passed through the trees, and dust danced in the golden rays of dawn. In that forgotten corner of the world, where time seemed to slide slowly, like honey trickling down the edge of a bowl, lived Ariane. Her hands, weathered by the years, wove colorful threads onto simple fabrics, constructing with each stitch not only garments, but fragments of her own destiny. Every day, Ariane sat at her worn wooden table, and although her fingers moved with the certainty that only repeated cycles provide, a restlessness crept beneath the daily rhythm. Between the murmur of the looms and the distant birdsong, something else seemed to slip by. It wasn't a voice, nor a fleeting image, but an ancient certainty, like a message written in the language of silence. As the sun climbed the walls of his workshop, The usual sounds began to fade. The stubborn ticking of the clock, the distant echo of the carriages, the muffled bustle of the townspeople. Everything blurred until a different kind of listening emerged. Not with the ears of the flesh, but with those others that awaken deep within the soul when one learns to be silent. It was an invisible invitation, a gentle tug toward territories neither his needle nor his hands could reach. In that wordless whisper, Ariane sensed a secret language in which life spoke to her. Ancient traditions held that before undertaking any true work, one must learn to hear the guidance that springs from the great current that sustains all things. Not in words, not in clear visions, but in the vast stillness that precedes all form. Perhaps you yourself have experienced those strange moments when the everyday world becomes translucent, like a veil drawn back to reveal a glow behind it. Perhaps in the caress of an unexpected wind, in the gaze of an old man who passes through the years, or in the suspended silence before a thunderclap splits the sky. It's not fantasy. It's the first echo of your soul remembering its forgotten essence. Chapter 2. The Engine That Cannot Be Seen. In another corner of time, Leandro, a master watchmaker, had dedicated his life to measuring the minutes of others. Surrounded by tiny mechanisms, stubborn hands, and tireless pendulums, his workshop was filled with the same old sound, the artificial beating of clocks. For years, he believed that everything valuable was contained in that precise measurement, that everything was under the order of the seconds that ticked by, one after the other. But one afternoon, as the sun set behind the cypresses, something different happened. It was in the brief interval between two ticks, in the imperceptible space between two breaths of time, that he heard something else. A different pulse. An ancient time, measured not by hands or calendars, but by the frequency of dreams and longings. A rhythm that belongs not to the hours, but to the soul. From then on, he understood that the universe doesn't act for you, but through you. That creation springs not from your actions, but from your state of being. Like a field that germinates invisible flowers underground, reality takes shape from invisible consciousness. What you live, what you are, and what you achieve are only reflections of the seeds planted in the fertile humus of your heart. Just as a tree doesn't question whether it deserves to be born before raising its leaves toward the light, so too does your destiny await your awakening. You stop looking outside for what has always been within. And in a house bathed in the scent of incense and the distant song of water, Naya, a painter of dreams, had tried year after year to capture life's secret beauty with her brushes. But her canvases, though full of color, lacked soul. She couldn't find that vivid spark that makes a work vibrate beyond its materiality. Until one day, exhausted from trying, she put her brush aside and allowed herself to simply be. Sitting in front of the open window, she allowed her mind to become still, like a lake at dawn. And in that clean, pure space, the images came not from effort, but from an unknown and sacred place. When she picked up the brush again, it moved as if carried by another hand, and her work breathed. He understood, as you perhaps will, that everything that is born authentically does not come from the will, but from a deeper space within each of us. That the seed of reality grows in the depths, where even thought cannot reach. That only when the being aligns with that eternal current does everything flow. The journey toward the sacred art of creating your life begins, like all essential things, in silence. At dawn or dusk, find a corner where neither voices nor clocks can reach you. Don't ask for anything. Don't expect answers. Just listen. Because before any word is spoken within you, the universe is already speaking to you. And in that first whisper, everything is contained. Chapter 3. The Art of Reflections. In an old library with high windows, as shadows stretched like long fingers across the dusty shelves, Eleonora gazed at the empty chairs that had once been filled with laughter and questions. Each of those seats was a reminder of another day of shattered dreams. Her shoulders, weary from carrying years of waiting and unfulfilled promises, slumped as her soul whispered in the echo of the room. Why does it seem that life insists on denying me what I long for? What Eleora hadn't yet understood, and what perhaps you haven't seen clearly either, is that existence doesn't bend to your words, or even your actions, but to the invisible root of your most ancient beliefs. Everything around you is a mirror, and the universe, in its infinite tenderness disguised as harshness, faithfully reflects what resides deep within you. When you fear loss, loss catches up with you. When you expect betrayal, it comes. But this isn't punishment, but revelation. Every moment, every circumstance, every encounter is a mirror that reflects back the echo of your most faithful thoughts and emotions. Your hands may hide, your lips may remain silent, but your inner self is projected. Your romantic relationships reflect the image you've accepted of yourself. Your health dances to the rhythm of your harmony or your inner storms. Your resources respond to the idea you hold about whether you deserve it or not. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens by chance. Everything happens from you. Near the woods, in a cabin where the cypresses whispered old prayers to the wind, Dorian had locked his heart away after years of disappointment. He avoided faces, afraid of seeing the reflection of old wounds in them. However, in his prolonged solitude, he began to hear a voice that came not from outside, but from the cracks in his own chest. He understood that those who rejected him only returned the condemnation he had imposed on himself, that his father's severity was the echo of his own internal condemnation, that the absence of affection was nothing more than his inability to receive. One dawn, while the mist still covered the fields, Dorian changed his ways. Instead of cursing the names of those who had hurt him, he began to silently bless them. And with each blessing, a knot unraveled. He understood that none of them had been his enemy, but rather his instructors, pointing out with their existence the corners where his soul needed healing. There was no longer any need to break mirrors, because the reflection only changes when the person looking into it changes. Every twilight, when the day spills into soft shadows and thoughts quiet, stop. Choose a scene that has hurt you and ask yourself with humility, what part of me is reflected in this? And there, in that sacred act of looking within, true alchemy begins, transforming the hurt into understanding and understanding into love. Breathe. Let the natural current of your chest become gentle. Allow your thoughts to settle like leaves in a windless pond. For it is there, in that deep and generous calm, that wisdom whispers wordlessly. And remember, every shadow that appears before you today, every stern face, every stumble, is actually a master in disguise, giving you the key to awakening. When you resist them, they persist. When you embrace them, they dissolve in the warm light of your awakened awareness. Chapter 4. The Nameless Temple. On a golden evening of fallen leaves, Solène walked beside the forgotten temple in a distant forest. For weeks, she had felt its invisible call, like an ancient melody stirring the quietest corners of her soul. Although its moss-covered walls no longer held prayers, a force drew her inward. There, where the dust danced like tiny angels in the beams of light, there was no abandonment, but a breathing presence. Sitting on a time-worn stone bench, her daily worries, the debts, the broken affections, the endless hours, faded like mist before the sun. And in that nameless silence, she finally heard what her heart had always tried to tell her, that everything she sought already resided within her. Life doesn't reveal itself in shouts or flashes of lightning. It speaks in the whisper before thought, in the gentle vibration that precedes words. Within you lies a sanctuary more sacred than any cathedral of marble and stained glass. It is in that space that true miracles are forged. When you decide to step away from the hustle and bustle and enter that room without walls or clocks, you connect with the source of creation. There, you don't ask, you know. You don't fight, you allow. And desires aren't forged by will, but by natural alignment with the very pulse that creates worlds. Idris also came to that place, a broken man after the departure of his life partner. He sought relief in other people's voices, in the noise of the crowds, in the busy days without respite. But peace always eluded him. Until one morning, sitting under the ancient tree in his garden, he finally stopped fighting. And in that moment of wordless surrender, he discovered what all the wise men have written in the folds of time. Joy and meaning are not found outside, but spring forth when the soul remembers its origin. That miracle awaits you, now and always. The great door opens in silence. The most luminous gifts come not in haste, but in stillness. Create a corner in your home, a lamp, a stone, a flower, any object that reminds you of your inner sanctuary. Allow yourself, even for a few moments each day, to return to that space without demands, without masks. It's not meditation as you've been told, nor prayer as you've learned. It's simply a return to yourself. And there, you will discover that everything you longed for already belongs to you before your first breath. Chapter 5. The Echoes of Silence. In a remote corner of the world, where dirt roads still held the memory of ancient footsteps and wildflowers grew without permission, there existed a small village asleep in its own routine. There, where rumors were like dry leaves carried by the wind, the story of Isolde and her family became a constant murmur that traveled from mouth to mouth. Isolde, a woman with gray hair like the ashes of an ancient fire and eyes that had seen too much, carried on her shoulders the invisible burden of heartbreak. Her daughter, made of pride and unresolved wounds, had stopped speaking to her brother many winters ago, and the man who once promised to protect her under the shade of the willows had carved into her face wrinkles that spoke of unspoken bitterness and resentments that refused to die. But in the interstices of human pain and fracture, Isolde discovered a secret that belonged not to men, but to the forgotten gods. Transformation does not dwell in confrontation, but in the sacred space of silence. Every dawn, before the first glimmer of light caressed the rooftops, she would go out into the small back garden. There, among wild grasses and moss-covered stones, she would close her eyes, breathe in the scent of damp earth, and surrender to the invisible art of blessing. She asked for nothing. She accused nothing. She corrected nothing. She simply saw with an open heart each of her loved ones, enveloping them in a light that rose from the very center of her chest. He didn't need words, because he understood what the ancient sages whispered to the wind. What is done in secret, in realms beyond the reach of the human eye, carries more weight than 1,000 actions shouted from the rooftops. It is in those invisible spaces that true destiny is woven. Isolde saw them as complete, whole, freed from the chains of their own resentments. She offered them peace, not from reason, but from a love so pure it demanded no return. And although external things remained motionless for a time, something in the air began to change. It was as if the threads that connect beings, those invisible cords that hold the fabric of life together, had loosened. Leandro, a local merchant, also lived this truth. His former business enemy, a man named Callisto, spread lies that nearly ruined him. But Leandro didn't seek revenge or expose his pain to the judgment of others. In the privacy of his study, by the flickering light of an oil lamp, he closed his eyes each night and in his mind's eye saw Callisto enveloped in a warm glow. He wished him well-being, prosperity, and the peace he himself longed for. The months passed like fallen leaves in a stream, and one morning, without warning, Callisto crossed the door of his tent. His hands trembled, and his gaze avoided Leandro's. He didn't bring elaborate words, but a simple apology and a proposal to put old grievances behind him. What for the witnesses was an inexplicable miracle. For Leandro was nothing more than the silent harvest of the seeds he had planted in the invisible. Such is the power you also possess, day traveler. Every secret blessing you send forth, every act of love that no one applauds, every image you hold deep within your spirit, becomes a golden thread that runs through the fabric of the universe. And the great mystery responds, not to your spoken words, but to the vibrations you emanate when no one is watching. Ritual of solitude. Every day, find a secluded corner, a moment where human voices fall silent, and you can listen to the secret language of the leaves, the stones, the wind. Invoke in your heart those who have hurt you, and those you still struggle to embrace in your mind. Wrap them in pure light, imagining for them what you yourself long for: serene joy, generous abundance, and causeless bliss. Keep this ceremony a secret, because like the seed that germinates in the deepest darkness before knowing the caress of the sun, your silent practice will grow, take root, and sprout, bearing fruit where you least expect it. In that hidden sanctuary of your heart, you access the sacred chambers where miracles originate. The ancients knew that the soul speaks best when it is silent, that true alchemy occurs in stillness, and that invisible love is the most powerful force in existence. Chapter 6. The Song of the Spheres. There was a room with high ceilings, veiled by dim lights that seemed to float like captive fireflies. There, amidst an expectant silence, Aitana sat in front of her antique piano. Her fingers, poised over the keys, seemed to search for an open door to that time when music flowed from her chest like spring water. For countless days, she had pursued technical perfection, memorized scores, tuned her ear, and forced her body to respond to the will of reason. Yet the spirit of music, which had once inhabited her, seemed to have vanished like a perfume in the mist. This is a moment every seeker recognizes, when formulas stop working, when words fail, and explanations turn to ash in the mouth. Because the universe communicates not in words, but in vibrations, in a secret dance of frequencies that only the heart can decipher. That night, Aitana closed her eyes and stopped trying. She allowed herself to forget the exact note, the correct posture, the precise cadence, and instead, she let her body remember the music like a bird remembers flight. She didn't play the piano. She became the music. Her heart set the rhythm. Her breathing wove the melodies, and her hands were mere witnesses to the symphony that welled up from deep within. And then, the impossible happened. The notes came out not as sounds, but as caresses to the soul. The listeners didn't hear a performance. They felt something ancient, vast, and sacred slip through their fingers. It was a language without words, a song without voice. He then understood what the sages of old had proclaimed to the stars. The universe responds not to your prayers, but to your vibration. It's not enough to utter desires. You must embody them. When you stop talking about love and become love, when you stop asking for prosperity and know yourself to be abundant, the very fabric of reality adjusts, like a cosmic loom that recognizes the signature of your energy. Orencio, a merchant tired of reciting affirmations that had no effect, discovered this truth on the verge of exhaustion. One morning, with no more strength to repeat the same empty words, he sank into his chair, closed his eyes, and dared to experience firsthand what it would be like to live in abundance. He felt the relief in his shoulders, the certainty in his chest, the calm in his breathing. He stopped asking and began to be. And without me seeking it, doors opened, paths cleared, opportunities arrived like migratory birds, not through words spoken, but through frequency achieved. Resonance practice. Choose a longing. Don't talk about it. Don't explain it. Feel it. Allow the sensation of its fulfillment to inhabit your body, your breathing to adapt to its rhythm, your skin to recognize it. Be one with that reality, as if it were already inevitable. This is the language of the spheres, the song without words, the prayer without voice. It is there, in that vibrant silence, that the universe listens. Because you are not what you say. You are what you quietly become. Chapter 7. The Alchemy of Unwavering Faith. In a secluded corner, above the tireless bustle of a market that never slept, Mara, a woman who barely saw the light of abundance, counted the coins left in her pocket over and over again. Each night she wondered if she could survive another month. But it was precisely in that space of scarcity, where limits seemed to squeeze her soul, that Mara discovered a forgotten truth. A truth that would not only transform her life, but make her soul blossom. The moment Mara experienced was no different from the one you may be experiencing now. The threshold between accepting what is and commanding what can be. At that threshold lies the greatest power a human being possesses. The power of unwavering faith. That faith that depends not on circumstances, but on what burns deep within our hearts. Every day, before the world awoke and the first light of dawn caressed the earth, Mara sat in silence, embracing the emptiness of stillness. She didn't ask for prosperity. She didn't invoke abundance as something distant or unattainable. Instead, she surrendered herself completely to feeling that abundance already resided within her being, in her bones, in her veins. She didn't wish to change things from the outside, but to transform herself from within. Although the world around her didn't change, she carried with her a silent dignity, a dignity that spoke the profound language of those who know their true worth, beyond the shadows of doubt. As the months passed, opportunities began to appear, not as casual fruits of chance, but as the natural unfolding of a universal law. The universe, a reflection of her inner certainty, could do nothing but manifest what Mara already felt within her being. The truth that had guided all great beings throughout time remains intact. Faith is not a reaction to reality. It is the blueprint upon which reality itself is built. Juan, a man who had dismissed these teachings as empty illusions, found himself trapped at a crossroads. His logical mind had built walls around his own potential, convincing him that everything he had dreamed was just a fantasy. However, one day, determined to defy the laws of thought and reasoning, he dared to believe, despite the evidence that spoke against him. He decided to trust not what his eyes showed him, but what his spirit knew was possible. His transformation began the precise moment he stopped waiting for external proof and became living proof of what is possible for the soul that dares to believe. You, dear reader, possess that same power. Your beliefs aren't just thoughts passing through your mind. They're active, powerful forces that shape the very essence of your reality. What you accept as true in the depths of your being becomes your outer world. And this isn't empty magic. It's a universal law, as old as existence itself. Practice. Take a piece of paper and write a letter from the future. Write as if you have already achieved everything you desire, as if everything is accomplished, complete. Then, read it secretly each morning, letting its words emerge from the abyss of your being, vividly describing the life you have manifested. Seal this message with unwavering faith, knowing that time is nothing more than an illusion. In the now, your future already exists. Each day, take a moment in silence. Commune with that future version of yourself. Feel its certainty and joy fill every corner of your being. As you read those words, allow yourself to merge with the truth of that reality, allowing its energy to become your own. In these sacred moments, remember that there is no separation between you and that version of yourself. They are the divine reflection of your highest potential made manifest. This daily ritual acts as a bridge between what appears to be and what actually is, in the eternal now, where everything is possible. Chapter 8. Time, a veil that hides the eternal portal. In a garden bathed in the golden light of dawn, Helena tended the flowers in her small retreat. Every day, She immersed herself in the beauty of her roses, while her mind wandered toward the future, toward the life she dreamed of one day achieving. Her dreams felt as far away as the stars, bright and distant, yet inaccessible. However, one day, in perfect synchronicity with the universe, everything changed. Perhaps you too find yourself trapped in the illusion of time. The human mind, like an ancient river, always whispers of a better future. When circumstances change, when everything is aligned, when you're finally smart. But that waiting, that constant waiting for the perfect moment, is the very veil that hides the power that already resides within you. The universe knows no tomorrow. The universe responds only to the now, to this sacred instant in which all possibility is present. When Helena finally understood that her waiting only fueled her powerlessness, she decided to surrender to the present. She stopped waiting for permission from the future, and in that surrender to the now, her entire world was transformed. That was the wisdom that the great sages have guarded for centuries. There is no path to power. Power is in the present. Your ability to manifest doesn't depend on a distant future, but on your willingness to fully inhabit this moment. Manuel, for his part, had carried the weight of past regrets for years. Their memories had become stones he carried heavily in the pockets of his soul. For a long time, he believed that healing would come only when he could understand and make sense of what he had done wrong. But peace never touched him. It wasn't until he stopped looking back, searching for the answers in time, that something began to heal. In an everyday moment, as he watched the leaves dance to the rhythm of the wind, Manuel allowed himself to simply be present. He felt the fresh air caress his skin and surrendered to the moment. In doing so, the burdens of the past, those regrets that dragged him down, dissolved. In that instant of pure presence, he understood that the present is not only the space of healing, but it is the only place where life truly happens. The past is only memory. The future is only imagination. Only the now has the power to transform our reality. When we fully enter this moment, we enter the timeless space where all creation originates. In the eternal present, miracles aren't waiting to happen. They are already happening. Practice. Today, choose an everyday task, one you do without thinking, and do it with complete presence. As you wash dishes, walk or breathe, allow your senses to fully awaken. Feel every detail, the temperature, the textures, the sounds. That simple moment contains the totality of existence. It is your portal to power. Do it with your full awareness. Feel the water on your hands. Notice how surfaces react to your touch. Listen to the melody of sounds that usually go unnoticed. In that act of pure presence, you will discover that the mundane hides a profound, sacred energy. This is your access to power, your key to unlocking the treasures already present in your daily life. Chapter 9. The Alchemy of Unwavering Faith. In a secluded corner, above the tireless bustle of a market that never slept, Mara, a woman who barely saw the light of abundance, counted the coins left in her pocket over and over again. Each night, she wondered if she could survive another month. But it was precisely in that space of scarcity, where limits seemed to squeeze her soul, that Mara discovered a forgotten truth, a truth that would not only transform her life, but make her soul blossom. The moment Mara experienced was no different from the one you may be experiencing now, the threshold between accepting what is and commanding what can be. At that threshold lies the greatest power a human being possesses, the power of unwavering faith, that faith that depends not on circumstances, but on what burns deep within our hearts. Every day, before the world awoke and the first light of dawn caressed the earth, Mara sat in silence, embracing the emptiness of stillness. She didn't ask for prosperity. She didn't invoke abundance as something distant or unattainable. Instead, She surrendered herself completely to feeling that abundance already resided within her being, in her bones, in her veins. She didn't wish to change things from the outside, but to transform herself from within. Although the world around her didn't change, she carried with her a silent dignity, a dignity that spoke the profound language of those who know their true worth, beyond the shadows of doubt. As the months passed, opportunities began to appear, not as casual fruits of chance, but as the natural unfolding of a universal law. The universe, a reflection of her inner certainty, could do nothing but manifest what Mara already felt within her being. The truth that had guided all great beings throughout time remains intact. Faith is not a reaction to reality. It is the blueprint upon which reality itself is built. Juan, a man who had dismissed these teachings as empty illusions, found himself trapped at a crossroads. His logical mind had built walls around his own potential, convincing him that everything he had dreamed was just a fantasy. However, one day, determined to defy the laws of thought and reasoning, he dared to believe, despite the evidence that spoke against him. He decided to trust not what his eyes showed him, but what his spirit knew was possible. His transformation began the precise moment he stopped waiting for external proof and became living proof of what is possible for the soul that dares to believe. You, dear reader, possess that same power. Your beliefs aren't just thoughts passing through your mind. They're active, powerful forces that shape the very essence of your reality. What you accept as true in the depths of your being becomes your outer world. And this isn't empty magic. It's a universal law as old as existence itself. Practice. Take a piece of paper and write a letter from the future. Write as if you have already achieved everything you desire, as if everything is accomplished, complete. Then, read it secretly each morning, letting its words emerge from the abyss of your being, vividly describing the life you have manifested. Seal this message with unwavering faith, knowing that time is nothing more than an illusion. In the now, your future already exists. Each day, take a moment in silence. Commune with that future version of yourself. Feel its certainty and joy fill every corner of your being. As you read those words, allow yourself to merge with the truth of that reality, allowing its energy to become your own. In these sacred moments, remember that there is no separation between you and that version of yourself. They are the divine reflection of your highest potential made manifest. This daily ritual acts as a bridge between what appears to be and what actually is, in the eternal now, where everything is possible. Before continuing with the video, if you want to do this in secret and watch how the universe delivers you the impossible, I recommend you watch the first link in the description. Chapter 10. Time, a veil that hides the eternal portal. In a garden bathed in the golden light of dawn, Helena tended the flowers in her small retreat. Every day, she immersed herself in the beauty of her roses, while her mind wandered toward the future, toward the life she dreamed of one day achieving. Her dreams felt as far away as the stars, bright and distant, yet inaccessible. However, one day, in perfect synchronicity with the universe, everything changed. Perhaps you too find yourself trapped in the illusion of time. The human mind, like an ancient river, always whispers of a better future. When circumstances change, when everything is aligned, when you're finally smart. But that waiting, that constant waiting for the perfect moment, is the very veil that hides the power that already resides within you. The universe knows no tomorrow. The universe responds only to the now, to this sacred instant in which all possibility is present. When Helena finally understood that her waiting only fueled her powerlessness, she decided to surrender to the present. She stopped waiting for permission from the future, and in that surrender to the now, her entire world was transformed. That was the wisdom that the great sages have guarded for centuries. There is no path to power. Power is in the present. Your ability to manifest doesn't depend on a distant future, but on your willingness to fully inhabit this moment. Manuel, for his part, had carried the weight of past regrets for years. Their memories had become stones he carried heavily in the pockets of his soul. For a long time, he believed that healing would come only when he could understand and make sense of what he had done wrong. But peace never touched him. It wasn't until he stopped looking back, searching for the answers in time, that something began to heal. In an everyday moment, as he watched the leaves dance to the rhythm of the wind, Manuel allowed himself to simply be present. He felt the fresh air caress his skin and surrendered to the moment. In doing so, the burdens of the past, those regrets that dragged him down, dissolved. In that instant of pure presence, he understood that the present is not only the space of healing, but it is the only place where life truly happens. The past is only memory. The future is only imagination. Only the now has the power to transform our reality. When we fully enter this moment, we enter the timeless space where all creation originates. In the eternal present, miracles aren't waiting to happen. They are already happening. Practice. Today, choose an everyday task, one you do without thinking, and do it with complete presence. As you wash dishes, walk, or breathe, allow your senses to fully awaken. Feel every detail, the temperature, the textures, the sounds. That simple moment contains the totality of existence. It is your portal to power. Do it with your full awareness. Feel the water on your hands. Notice how surfaces react to your touch. Listen to the melody of sounds that usually go unnoticed. In that act of pure presence, you will discover that the mundane hides a profound, sacred energy. This is your access to power, your key to unlocking the treasures already present in your daily life. Chapter 11. The Silence of the Soul. In a small village library, guarded by wooden shelves that seemed to breathe history, the constant whisper of the pages wove each book. Each book held secrets that only the soul could understand, and the air, heavy with stillness, was imbued with ancient wisdom. Francis, a man who spent his days among books and words, discovered a truth that would transform not only his life, but the very fabric of his existence. Each night, when he closed the library doors, he returned home. But his day didn't end with that simple gesture. There was a ritual that awaited him, a sacred act that connected his being to the universe. Deep within her bedroom, where memories intertwined with the softness of shadows, lay an old leather journal. Within those pages were no loud words or empty affirmations. They rested only declarations, those silent sentences that formed in the silence of the mind, in the intimacy of the heart. What Francis discovered, in his silence, was an ancient power. The declarations he made from the depths of his being were not mere words. They were sacred decrees that resonated throughout the infinite vastness of the cosmos. Truth, he understood, does not need to raise its voice to be heard. It is not the shouts of a declaration that move the universe, but the silent certainty with which the soul connects with the divine. When one enters the stillness of being and whispers to the soul, "I am," what is expressed are not just words, but the very invocation of creative power. In that whisper, as gentle as the wind caressing the mountains, lies the power of creation itself, a language only the soul understands, a profound conversation between consciousness and infinity. In his study, Stanley, a man whose life was constantly invaded by speeches and applause, found refuge in silence. Surrounded by external noise, the inner voice of his being was the only one that could bring him peace. In the solitude of his space, he began to silently declare what his soul already knew. His identity, his deepest being, was not found in the titles the world bestowed upon him, but in his intimate connection with divinity. No one knew of this change. But when the words ceased to be proclaimed, the universe began to reorganize around him. as if the stars responded to his new certainties. This act of silent declaration is much more than a simple positive affirmation. It is a silent agreement with the profound truth of being. The words that arise within do not seek to convince the heart, but to remind us of what already is. This is the language of the universal mind, which cannot be heard, but is felt, like the breeze that moves the leaves of the trees unseen. And so, each night, as we approach the threshold of sleep, we can, in the stillness of darkness, whisper to our soul, "I am." And in doing so, the soul aligns itself with the eternal flow of the universe, that flow that sustains creation with every breath. Practice. Before going to sleep, write 3 I am affirmations in a notebook owned only by you. Do this silently, in the privacy of your being, feeling each word not as a wish, but as a declaration of universal truth. As the outside world dissolves and you sink into the sacred space between waking and sleeping, let those words emerge from the core of your being, like a melody resonating in the depths of your soul. In that moment, the bridge between the seen and the unseen becomes tangible, and the forces of the universe align with your deepest purpose. Chapter 12. The Gift of the Heart. In a garden forgotten by time, where roses bloomed with a beauty that could not be contained by the aging walls, Helen painstakingly tended each flower. Her delicate and wise hands touched each petal, as if each were a breath of the universe. However, those who knew her didn't know that her smile, so warm, didn't reach the depths of her eyes. Deep within her lay an ocean of unspoken emotions, which the world never saw. For years, Helen had learned to hide her pain behind a facade of joy, keeping everyone at a distance, not allowing them to discover the storm raging within her soul. This is how one of the great teachings of divine protocol is revealed. Emotion is not an enemy to be mastered, but a sacred offering to be honored. The universe is not interested in you always being well, in your emotions being only joyful or content. What the divine seeks is your authentic presence, one that accepts both pain and joy as sacred manifestations of the soul. When you deny your feelings, you deny the very current that connects the divine to the human, the same current that allows miracles to happen. Your emotion is the energy that carries the essence of your soul to the most remote corners of the cosmos. Every tear, every laugh, is a profound prayer that the universe receives with reverence, transforming it into the pure substance of creation. The divine does not discriminate between sadness and happiness. Both are equally valuable, for both are the very essence of your human experience. Warren, a man whose creative ability was known to all, carried within him a dream he had never let out. He found himself alone in his workshop one night, tracing the grain of a still incomplete piece of wood. And in that instant, something inside him broke, like a dam giving way to the force of an unstoppable river. Tears fell onto the wood, and in that act of surrender, the universe began to move. In the days that followed, opportunities arrived, as if attracted by the force of an invisible magnet. Finally, his dream, which had been dormant deep within him, began to manifest before him. Your emotions, dear friend, are not obstacles to the manifestation of your dreams. They are the very substance of creation. When you let them flow without judgment or resistance, you allow divine alchemy to transform your pain into wisdom, your joy into abundance, and your gratitude into light that illuminates the paths of the universe. Practice. Every morning, before the world awakens, find a moment of peace. Sit in silence and let an emotion, be it joy, sadness, gratitude, or love, rise up from deep within you. Allow yourself to feel it fully, without rushing to change or judge it. Feel that emotion unfold in your being, like the echo of a river flowing gently in your heart. And when you do, offer that emotion as a sacred gift, knowing that within it resides the pure essence of your soul. Make this a daily act of devotion, an intimate ceremony between you and the divine, where the true magic is found in the honesty of your being. Chapter 13. Divine Time. In a modest cottage by the seashore, Alma lit a candle every morning, letting its light break the darkness of dawn. As the flame danced gently in the air, she whispered prayers to the silence surrounding her. Her heart deeply longed to be a mother, but month after month, her hope seemed unanswered. The weight became a silent pain, a constant sigh, until one morning, in the stillness of her soul, she discovered an ancient and forgotten truth. Alma understood, in that moment of profound revelation, that what seemed like a delay in her life was, in reality, a perfect calibration of the universe. Everything in creation was in perfect synchronicity. Every action, every breath, every second, orchestrated with divine precision. The timing of the universe aligns not with human haste, but with the invisible threads of destiny, which need time to unite in their entirety. What she had interpreted as an endless wait was actually a preparation, a sacred space where destiny was fine-tuning itself to receive the abundance her soul deserved. Carlos, a musician who played in the city's most prestigious venues, was on stage hoping to achieve his breakthrough when suddenly a power outage plunged everything into darkness. However, far from seeing this setback as a loss, he followed a hunch that led him to a small community center. There, children stared at him with eyes full of wonder at his saxophone. In that instant, Carlos realized that his true mission wasn't fame, but rather awakening the music that resides in the pure hearts of young people. Life often shows us that what appears to be a missed opportunity is, in fact, divine protection. The timing of the universe does not conform to our limited vision, but to the highest designs of our soul. Every delay contains a blessing waiting to be revealed at the perfect moment. Practice. Each morning, before the world begins to rush by, enter the silence and say these words respectfully. This is sacred time. I trust in what is aligning for me. Let this declaration be your offering to the infinite wisdom that orchestrates all things. Feel how those words resonate in your being, and how, as you trust in divine timing, your soul connects with a stream of infinite wisdom. In moments of doubt, return to this ritual, allowing your willingness to surrender to sacred time to release the blessings you cannot yet see. In time, you will discover that each moment unfolds with exquisite precision, guiding your life toward a destiny far beyond what you could have planned. Chapter 14. The Altar of the Everyday. In a neighborhood filled with voices and hurried footsteps, Mariana stood at her kitchen sink, immersing her hands in the warm water with profound serenity. For others, such everyday tasks as washing dishes or sweeping the floor were unimportant gestures. But for her, each action was imbued with sacred meaning. As she scrubbed the ceramics, she uttered silent blessings for those who would use those dishes. As she swept, she felt she was cleansing not only the dust, but also the energies of her home, transforming the mundane into an act of devotion. Mariana had understood a profound truth. The ordinary becomes extraordinary when infused with sacred intention. Life itself is an altar, and everything we do in it is an act of communion with the divine. The universe doesn't focus on the magnitude of ceremonies, but on the reverence with which each moment is lived. When we transform even the simplest gestures into sacred rituals, we tap into an ancient power that transcends the visible. The story of Diego, a small merchant whose shop was failing to prosper, shows us this truth. Every morning, before the sun fully rose, he would arrive at his shop in the darkness to perform a simple ritual. He would light a candle and whisper words of gratitude into the void. No customer saw those moments, but the change taking place in his shop was evident. Prosperity came not through commercial strategies, but through Diego's deep connection with the present moment, through his devotion to the sacred, even though no one else perceived it. Your life is a temple, and you are the guardian of its sanctuary. The most powerful rituals are those performed alone, where intention flows purely and unseen. Every day has the potential to become an act of communion with the infinite, a sacred moment that needs no witnesses, only your soul and the vastness of the universe. Practice. Create a simple, personal ritual. Perhaps it's lighting a candle, making a cup of tea, or simply taking a few deep breaths. Do it every day, in the stillness of silence, before the world begins to move. This sacred act will be your anchor to the divine, an intimate space of devotion. The power lies not in the complexity of your ritual, but in the depth of your dedication and consistent commitment. As you dedicate yourself to this daily act, you will discover that the simplest gestures, performed with pure intention, become gateways to profound transformation. Chapter 15. The Awakening of Inner Power. In the stillness of a garden illuminated by the soft moonlight, Celeste stood before the flowers her grandmother had so carefully tended. For years, she lived as a shadow of others' expectations, seeking answers in every voice but her own. That night, as the scent of jasmine filled the air and the stars seemed to whisper secrets to the wind, she closed her eyes and turned toward her deepest self. In that instant, Celeste understood that she stood before a sacred threshold where external voices must yield to the voice of her heart. The universe had planted within her an infallible compass, far more accurate than any borrowed map. Every time she looked outside herself for guidance, she strayed from the oracle that had always been within her. Her subconscious mind was not just a repository of memories, but a living scroll upon which the story of her life was woven. Gabriel, a man who had dedicated his life to following the dogmas of ancient texts, felt the call of silence. One morning, instead of directing his voice from the pulpit, he walked into the woods behind his church. There, under the canopy of leaves, he heard for the first time the voice that had always been present, but which he had never clearly heard. The pure wisdom of his own soul, clear as the light of dawn. This is not a journey of discovery, but of remembrance. The guidance you seek has never left you. It has only waited for your attention to turn inward, like a radio tuning to an always available frequency. Your inner wisdom emerges with clarity when you finally stop drowning it out with external noise. The time has come to reclaim your spiritual sovereignty. No teacher, no book, no authority can know your path better than the quiet voice within you. Practice. Close your eyes and calmly repeat, "I release the voices of others. I now hear the voice that was mine before I was born." Let these words sink deeply into your awareness as you breathe slowly. Feel the ancient wisdom awakening within you as you release the opinions of others. With each breath, sink deeper into the sacred silence where your original knowing resides. Feel this wisdom flowing naturally, like an ever-present spring beneath the surface of your being. As you remain in this state of receptive stillness, observe your own truth emerging with crystal clarity, uncontaminated by outside voices. This is your inheritance, your connection to the infinite intelligence that has guided you since before time began. Before continuing with the video, if you want to do this in secret and watch how the universe delivers you the impossible, I recommend you watch the first link in the description. Chapter 16. The Reflection of Uncertainty. On cold winter nights, Maria sat by the window of her home, watching the snowflakes dance in the glow of the streetlights. Her journal lay open before her, filled with dreams and intentions that no longer seemed as firm as before. The universe seemed silent, and her faith flickered like a flame flickering in the wind. You now find yourself in the sacred space where all great manifestations are born, on the threshold between certainty and doubt. This moment of questioning is not a sign of weakness, but a preparation for your expansion. Just as the night grows darkest before the dawn, your greatest doubts often precede your greatest breakthroughs. The universe moves in cycles of contraction and expansion. When you feel everything contracting in uncertainty, you know you are being prepared for growth. Your doubt is not a barrier, but the ultimate testing ground for your commitment. Samuel, a man who had dismissed all things spiritual, found himself surrounded by inexplicable experiences that challenged his rigid worldview. Instead of fighting his uncertainty, he learned to embrace it gently, like someone holding a bird in his open hands. His healing practice began not when the doubt disappeared, but when he accepted it as part of his journey. "I don't need to understand everything," he said. "I just need to stay open." This is the deepest truth. Doubt doesn't oppose faith. It refines it. When you keep going despite your questions, your faith becomes unshakable knowledge. It transforms from blind belief into proven wisdom. The universe doesn't demand perfect certainty, but willing persistence in the midst of uncertainty. Your doubts aren't a punishment, but an invitation. They ask you, will you keep going, even when the path seems uncertain? Will you trust, even when your logical mind rebels? This is how miracles are born, not in perfect faith, but in the decision to trust, even while doubting. Practice. Whenever you feel doubt, whisper, "Even now I trust." Then place your hand over your heart and breathe deeply, letting the warmth of your palm remind you of your connection to infinite wisdom. Let each breath be a gentle affirmation of your faith as uncertainty swirls around you. This practice becomes your anchor, reminding you that everything is unfolding perfectly, even when your mind can't yet see the larger pattern. Chapter 17. The Messenger of Challenge. In a small town where autumn draped the streets in its golden mantle, Isabella stood in front of her empty store. Her partner's betrayal was still a fresh wound, and the closed sign hung like a weight on her soul. Yet beneath her pain, something vibrated, a whisper of possibility, a call to something greater. When life seems to offer you what you believe is misfortune, it often brings with it a sacred reorientation. Your setbacks are not punishments, but divine adjustments that guide you toward your true destiny. The universe speaks through contrast, showing you through the shadows where the light must emerge. Every challenge presents two options: view it as defeat or recognize it as a new direction. Those who master the art of manifesting understand that resistance often precedes revelation. Your difficulties are not random. They are precise instruments of awakening. Javier had only known the boxing ring, his identity entangled in fights and intense training sessions. When an injury closed that door forever, he discovered that words flowed through his pen, telling stories that touched souls far beyond what his fists ever could. His apparent loss became the gateway to the true expression of his being. What seems like opposition is, in reality, opposition to that which no longer serves your highest path. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, must sometimes shake off what you hold too tightly, creating space for what your soul truly seeks. Your resistance to this process only prolongs the transition. When you learn to welcome contrast as a messenger, its discomfort begins to soften. Practice. Write a letter of gratitude to a painful experience that has shaped your path. Pour your heart onto the page, acknowledging both the difficulty of the journey and the wisdom it has sculpted your soul. Ask yourself with true openness, what sacred message did you come to deliver? Let your words flow without judgment, knowing that in your greatest struggles often lie the seeds of your deepest transformation. As you write, listen to what rises from the depths of your being, the subtle whispers of understanding that awaited this moment of recognition. Your letter becomes a bridge between what was and what will be, between resistance and acceptance, between pain and the profound purpose it carries within. Chapter 18. The Treasure of Faith. In a simple bakery, where the first rays of sunlight filtered through the flower-covered windows, Pilar stood in front of the empty display cases. The aroma of fresh bread filled the air, but customers had become scarce. Yet every morning she whispered gratitude for the abundance she couldn't yet see. You now stand on the threshold of a powerful truth. Faith is not an illusion. It is the currency of creation. When you thank the universe for what has yet to manifest, you activate an ancient law that transforms energy into form. Your gratitude becomes the bridge between the invisible and the visible. This practice requires more than words. It demands the courage to feel rich before wealth arrives, to know that success has arrived before it manifests, to embrace love before it appears. The universe doesn't respond to what you desire, but to what you already believe you have. Renato understood this principle to the depths of his being. Night after night, in his small apartment, he embodied the character he longed to play, not as practice, but as truth. He lived as if he were already that celebrated actor, letting gratitude fill his heart for the role that had yet to be offered to him. The universe couldn't help but align with such unwavering faith. Practice. Every morning, give thanks for one thing you have not yet received, as if it had already been given. Feel the sincerity of that gratitude coursing through your being, not letting the slightest doubt diminish its power. Whether it's a treasured relationship, a creative breakthrough, or material abundance, express your appreciation with the same depth of feeling you would if it were already manifested before you. This practice aligns your inner world with the reality you wish to create, opening channels through which the universe can deliver your desire. Chapter 19. The Gardener of Inner Silence. In a city bathed in the golden light of dawn, where the greens of nature seemed a distant whisper, Magdalena rose every morning before the sun. Before her, a small, barren, and desolate piece of land stretched out. But in her heart, she knew that the earth held the secret of life within. While others saw only dust and stones, she saw the promise of an invisible garden that pulsed in the stillness. Like the garden that cannot be hurried by the desire to see flowers, you too are a gardener of inner silence. What you sow in your soul, like a dream as yet unformed, grows beneath the soil of your consciousness, beyond the reach of your eyes and quick understanding. And like Magdalene, you must learn that the growth of what you desire cannot be hurried, that life follows a natural law that does not respond to the demands of human impatience. The seed cannot be pulled from the ground just to be observed, for if that is done, its root weakens and the flower will never appear. In the garden of your life, your intentions are the seeds that, when sown with faith, wait in silence to sprout at the right moment. Often, the anxious mind wants to see immediate results, but true cultivation occurs not under the pressure of a clock, but in the stillness of waiting and trust. Thus, your task is not to unearth your desires every day to check their progress, but to protect the inner space where those desires can germinate. Alejandro understood this with the depth of one who has observed how the oak tree grows silently within the acorn. For 7 years, he held a sacred vision within his being, without sharing it, without demanding anything from the universe. Each day, he sat in silence, feeling the certainty that his desire was already happening, as if the seeds of his soul were already blossoming. He didn't struggle to make things happen, but instead dedicated himself to cultivating his inner peace, creating the perfect conditions for the magic of the universe to unfold in his life. The true art of manifestation lies in understanding that what seems dormant is nothing more than the strength accumulating in the darkness, waiting for its moment to sprout into the light. And it is there, in the space of stillness and trust, that everything begins to take shape. Every thought of lack is like a hand that pulls out a seed before its time, but every moment of faith allows its roots to sink deeper into the fertile soil of your soul. Always remember that it's not your effort that moves the universe, but your ability to maintain the right conditions for everything you desire to manifest. Faith that invisible water that nourishes the seeds, is what allows the oak tree of your dreams to grow, unstoppable and solid, beyond what your eyes can see. In this sacred garden, you cultivate with your soul. The flowers that have yet to open are already a vibrant promise beneath the earth. Practice. Choose a sincere desire, one that dwells deep within you. Dedicate 5 minutes of complete stillness each day, as if you were tending an invisible garden. During this time, feel grateful that your wish has already been fulfilled. Don't seek external proof, nor alter the course of the earth with your fears. Simply cultivate your faith, like the gardener who tends his garden with infinite patience. Let your soul dance with the certainty that what you have sown will grow in its own time, when conditions are perfect. Chapter 20. The Power of Sacred Silence. In a quiet city, where secrets wove like nocturnal flowers that only open to the moon, Sophia kept her most precious dreams in small notes, under the softness of her pillow. Every dawn, she took a moment to seal her deepest intentions in the silence of her being, knowing that what is left unspoken holds immense power, a force capable of changing the course of destiny. This is the path to the second key of divine protocol, the mastery of sealed intention. What remains silent, unexposed to the light of judgment or doubt, grows with a quiet strength, fueled only by the pure love you offer it in your heart. Just as the most beautiful flowers need the darkness of night to open to the light of day, your desires need the stillness of your soul, so that their energy may grow silently, invisible to the outside eye, until the perfect moment arrives. Stephen understood this truth when he chose to hide his greatest dreams, not out of fear, but out of respect for the mystery of creation. For one full cycle of the sun, he guarded his visions like a sacred treasure within himself. No one was to know them, not even in words. He carried them like a secret between himself and the universe, allowing silence to nourish and protect them. Whenever someone asked him about his plans, he smiled with the knowledge that true power was not found in words, but in the stillness of intention. The universe honors what you hold sacred. When you choose to seal your desires in the silence of your soul, you create a space where divine energy rushes in, ready to fill that void. This isn't mere concealment. It's an act of spiritual alchemy. Every time you resist the temptation to speak your desire, you actually give it more power, like a river that doesn't release its water until it's fully prepared for revelation. Words have an unbreakable power, but when they are cast carelessly, they lose their transformative power. However, when they are held in reverent silence, like a desire held deep in the heart, they become arrows of pure intention that shoot resolutely toward their goal, bringing with them everything necessary for their manifestation. The second key teaches that true creation thrives in sacred stillness. Like a seed beneath the winter snow, your hidden desire gathers strength in the stillness, attracting around it everything it needs for its perfect unfoldment. Practice. Write a sincere wish, letting the words flow from your soul without hesitation or doubt. Then, fold the paper carefully and place it in an envelope, leaving it in a sacred place. Perhaps an object that connects you to the divine, like a special stone or a symbol of your faith. This is your secret altar, your pact with the universe. Do not open or share it, for this is a sacred act between your being and the infinite energy that surrounds you. Let the silence of your intention speak for you, and trust that the universe is already listening. Chapter 21. The Path of Great Wisdom. In a small corner of a village where time flowed slowly like honey, Alma sat every morning at her loom, her fingers dancing over the threads with a dexterity that only the years could bestow upon her. Every day, before beginning her work, she would silently whisper into the air, "Walk with me." What began as a simple daily habit soon became the thread that would weave a new life, like an invisible tapestry unfolding before her. Through the awakening of the soul, you reach a truth as old as the breath of the wind. The universe is not a distant force to be implored, but a subtle, close presence that dances with you every step of your journey. This divine intelligence is not separate from you. On the contrary, it moves through your every movement, every thought, every breath. When you align with it, decisions no longer arise from human effort, but from a wisdom that transcends you. Alma discovered over time that when she surrendered control, releasing every thought and action into the hands of great wisdom, life began to respond to her in ways no human plan could have orchestrated. People arrived at her store at precisely the right time. Solutions emerged from unexpected places. Even the time she spent on the bus seemed guided by an invisible hand. Your relationship with the universe is not meant to be one of supplication and pleading, but one of flow and harmony, like a wave surrendering itself to the ocean. You are not separate from this force. You are an expression of it, a reflection of its will. When you understand that the universe is not something to be conquered or dominated, but something to be danced with, life begins to transform. It is no longer a series of endless struggles, but a delicate and perfect dance, where every step is synchronized with the whole. It is in this dance that the grace of the universe is manifested in every moment. Ernesto, a man marked by suffering, discovered this truth in the stillness of his pain. In the emptiness of his home, he began to treat his thoughts not as mere solitary wanderings, but as sacred conversations with the divine. Every worry became a question directed toward infinite wisdom, every moment of gratitude a small ceremony of profound connection. In doing so, he began to notice that an intelligence far greater than his own was expressing itself through his life, guiding him with subtle precision, like an effortlessly flowing river. When you tune into this divine dialogue, you begin to walk in a flow where miracles are not exceptional, but natural. The ever-present universe speaks to you in whispers, through imperceptible signs that appear as traces of your path. Practice. As you begin your day, whisper in your heart, "Walk with me." Imagine that every step you take is in harmony with the universe. Throughout your day, allow each breath to be a sacred exchange with the infinite wisdom that surrounds you. Feel the divine presence at your side, guiding your every decision, illuminating the path you take. As you go about your daily tasks, maintain this intimate connection, knowing deep within you that you are never truly alone on your journey. Chapter 22. Synchronicity as a Divine Signature. In a secluded corner of the post office, Clara sorted letters with precision, as if her hands knew each envelope before she touched it. Her movement was fluid, a steady rhythm that seemed to mark time with the same serenity as a river flowing between stones. Each morning, she silently whispered a simple prayer, "Show me the way." What began as a timid hope soon transformed into a profound dialogue with the universe. Numbers began to appear, first 1111, ticking the clock as she looked up, then 333 on the package she held, and 444 on the license plates of the cars that crossed her path. These numbers weren't simple coincidences, but a way the universe spoke to her, a sacred language that showed her she was aligned with something much greater. Through Clara's experience, you encounter a profound truth. The universe communicates not just with words, but through patterns, perfect timing, and small miracles that happen at just the right moment. Every symbol that appears before you, every repeated number, every chance encounter holds a lesson, a message that guides you. The universe is not simply a jumbled mess of events, but a masterpiece woven with divine precision. Every step you take is part of a much larger pattern, and when you align yourself with that great mind, reality itself becomes your messenger. Pedro, a man who once dismissed life's small coincidences, discovered this truth when he began following what others would call simple accidents. A misdelivered letter led him to a newspaper article, which in turn led to a phone call, and that call opened a door that transformed his life forever. By honoring each small sign, he realized these weren't mere coincidences, but breadcrumbs placed by a higher intelligence that saw the bigger picture of his destiny. When you allow yourself to recognize these signs and open yourself to them, the universe responds by multiplying the frequency and clarity of its messages. Your task isn't to force connections or interpret each moment with logic, but to remain receptive and open. Each synchronicity is a gentle reminder that you are seen, supported, and guided by forces beyond your understanding. These moments of perfect timing, of circumstances that fall right into place, are living proof that the unseen is actively working on your behalf. Practice. Keep a synchronicity journal. Record every moment you feel is charged with meaning, without judgment or logic. Every repeating number, every chance encounter, every meaningful coincidence is a sign. Do this with reverence, as if you were writing a letter to the universe. Over time, patterns will appear, weaving a web of signs that will confirm your path. Trust that each entry, no matter how small, has a purpose in the tapestry the universe is weaving on your behalf. Chapter 23. Living from Eternity. In a room bathed in the soft light of a sun that seemed to caress the earth with promises of what was to come, Alina sat each morning at her humble desk, in front of blank pages that awaited the words she poured forth from the depths of her being. In each word, a whisper of love and gratitude flowed like a serene river toward a man who had yet to enter her life. It wasn't the hope of a yearning heart, nor the uncertainty of a formless desire. Number. They were words born of a calm conviction, of a knowing that lay beyond time, beyond space. Each letter she wrote wasn't a plea, but a decree of certainty, a love that already existed in her soul and would manifest when the universe decided it was the right time. You, dear reader, possess this same power, the power to write the story of your life before it unfolds in the tangible world. What you sometimes call imagination is nothing more than the sacred plane of creation. The universe responds not to what you desire, but to what you are at the deepest part of your being. In every act, in every thought, you not only attract what you desire, but you embody the very essence of that which is destined to come to you. Every action you take is a seed you have planted in the vast field of your consciousness. Alina, like you, learned to live from this place of certainty. Each morning, when her hands danced over the paper, she wasn't dreaming. She wasn't immersing herself in vain illusions, but rather affirming what she already knew. The man she would love, the words she would share, the home she would build. And when he finally arrived, as if he had been waiting for the very arrival, the words of his letters, those she had written in solitude and calm, matched the reality of their encounter. The universe, in its perfect dance, had aligned destiny with the truth Alina had proclaimed. In a secluded corner of his home, Eden, a man of simple spirit and artistic hands, worked in his workshop, respectfully shaping each object he touched. The wood came to life beneath his fingers, as if each piece were a promise of moments yet to be lived. He created tables that would echo with laughter, chairs that would receive the whispers of nearby souls, cabinets that would hold the memories of what had not yet existed. Eden didn't make furniture out of necessity, but as an offering to the future, to what was already his. Because he understood that living from the end is not a mere utopia, but a sacred art, acting from the beginning of everything, from the certainty that there is no lack in being. The universe responds not to lack, but to abundance. There's no need to wait to see to believe, for the stillness of the soul is the reflection of who we are. Reality is not a distant future we must reach, but a frequency we must tune into in this moment. Every thought, every gesture, every moment of your life is an opportunity to live from plenitude, from the truth you have already claimed. When you walk through life, do you do so as someone searching for something lost, or as someone who already possesses everything their soul needs? Every small act can become an affirmation of your true nature. Every breath, every step, every word spoken is an opportunity to align yourself with the greatness that already resides within you. Practice. Today, begin acting as if your desire were already a reality. Take a small action, a simple decision you would make if you were already living your heart's desire. Allow this action to be born of inner wisdom, not pretense or forced effort. Perhaps you straighten your back like one who knows they are worthy, or you speak with the gentle authority of one who has embraced their own truth. Make this change, however small, allowing it to arise from a deep state of inner transformation. Remember, you are not pretending, nor acting. You are simply allowing your being to align with the truth you have already claimed as yours. Chapter 24. The Sacred Science of Gratitude. In a small corner of her home, surrounded by photographs and mementos that spoke of an eternal love, Isadora knelt each morning beside her daughter's empty bed. While others saw only absence, she saw the presence of what had yet to arrive. She whispered words of gratitude to the wind, thanking for what had yet to manifest, but which her heart knew was yet to come. "Thank you for the peace that fills my soul," she said gently, even though the pain still ached deeply. "Thank you for the joy that returns to this home," she murmured, tears silently falling. But through those tears, her heart didn't break, but rather was filled with an unsuspected strength. Gratitude is not simply a response to what has already arrived. It is the key that opens the doors of the universe, the key that unlocks the blessings that still lie at the threshold of your life. When you give thanks before the miracle reveals itself, you alter the very essence of creation. It is not positive thinking. It is a profound spiritual act, an act of faith in the unseen, an act of wisdom that aligns with the cosmic laws of being. Isadora, like so many wise souls before her, discovered this principle through daily practice. Every word of gratitude she spoke was not a response to what was missing, but a celebration of what was yet to come. Her soul, like yours, was remembering the natural state of wholeness that had always belonged to her, a wholeness that is only revealed when one lives in harmony with the divine flow of life. Carlos, a man lost in the shadows of doubt, also began walking this same path. Every dawn, he would stand in front of the window of his small house and raise his voice to heaven, thanking for the clarity he didn't yet possess. "Thank you for showing me the way," he would say with faith, even though his life remained a labyrinth of uncertainty. "Thank you for the guidance that lights my path," he would proclaim, while the questions continued to dance in his mind. What you are witnessing, dear reader, is the magic of anticipated gratitude. The universe doesn't require you to wait for a miracle to begin giving thanks. On the contrary, your gratitude is the very seed of those miracles, the energy that makes abundance sprout from the fertile soil of the possible. It's not about denying what is, but about honoring what could be, about surrendering to the deeper truth that lies beyond what is seen. Practice. Create your own sacred ritual of gratitude. Give thanks for 3 things that have yet to arrive, as if they were already here. Choose a quiet moment, perhaps at dawn or dusk, when the veil between what is and what can be is thinnest. Speak your gratitude with the strength of certainty, knowing that each word you speak is sowing the seeds of a bright future. In that moment of connection with the divine, you know you have already planted the seeds that the universe will bring to blossom in its perfect timing. Chapter 25. The Guardians of the Threshold. In a studio lit by the dim light of a slowly fading afternoon, Elias stood before his masterpiece. The canvases around him, all imbued with his soul, held incomplete stories of his artistic journey. Finally, after years of quiet dedication, galleries began to notice his talent. The exhibition of a lifetime was about to arrive. The opportunity he had awaited with a heart full of dreams and effort. But on the morning of his revelation, He learned that his closest friend had taken credit for his distinctive technique, securing the contract that, by rights, should have been his. You now face a fundamental truth that all spiritual paths must pass through. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, presents one final test before your greatest ascent. This test is not a condemnation, nor a defeat, but a dispossession. Fate sometimes presents itself disguised as betrayal, loss, or impossibility, not to break you, but to free you from what no longer serves your path to expansion. In that moment of pain, Elias, like all great travelers of the soul, faced a choice: surrender to the poison of resentment, or transmute that wound into creative fire. He chose the latter. He painted through his tears, allowing the pain to fuel his art, allowing the emptiness of betrayal to become the force that would give life to something entirely new. What emerged from his brush was a raw, authentic creation, touched by a higher energy that can only come from total surrender to the present moment. Practice. In your life, every challenge presents itself as a door, an opportunity for transformation. The next time you face one, write these words in your journal or whisper them with determination. This is a door. Then, ask yourself with an open mind and heart, what must I let go of to step through it? Allow the question to sink into the depths of your being. Notice what arises. Perhaps a fear, an outdated belief, a need for control. Every door asks you to let go of something that no longer serves your evolution. Remember, by naming your obstacle as a door, you are already beginning the sacred process of transformation. Chapter 26. The Energy Signature of Destiny. In a small apartment filled with soft light and the aromas of freshly brewed coffee, Leora sat every morning at her desk, immersed in reports and calculations that drained her vitality. Deep within her, however, lay a quiet whisper. Her poems, written in notebooks no one would read, were waiting to be heard. She had convinced her soul that logic must prevail over passion, that practice was more important than vibration. But beneath the structured routine, something ancient and sacred was beginning to awaken, a frequency that spoke of a different path. You must understand that each soul carries a unique vibrational signature, an eternal melody that, when followed, connects you to your highest destiny. This is not just a metaphor, it's a profound law that governs the universe. When you align with the inner frequency of your being, the entire cosmos conspires in your favor, guiding you toward the most authentic expression of your existence. For Leora, the transformation began one morning, when she decided to wake up before dawn. Instead of conforming to the dictates of the clock and obligation, she surrendered to the silent hours of dawn, moments where her soul found its natural rhythm. This small but radical decision to honor her being led her to a profound awakening. The poems that had previously remained hidden began to flow, and what had been a whisper inside her began to resonate in the hearts of those who needed her words. Practice. Ask yourself sincerely, what makes my soul sing? Begin to integrate that answer into your daily life, even in a small gesture. Maybe it's spending 5 minutes under a starry sky, writing a few lines of poetry without thinking about perfection, or sharing a warm smile with a stranger. These actions, though simple, are powerful when aligned with your soul's frequency. They become ripples in the ocean of manifestation, creating the space for your truth to express itself in the world. Chapter 27. Letting go of the how. In an office surrounded by the vibrant life of the city, Sylvia found herself trapped between mountains of charts, detailed lists, and meticulous schedules. Every morning, with fierce concentration, she reviewed her strategies, adjusted her action steps, and tried to impose her dreams on the will of her mind. However, as she attempted to precisely control every step of her journey, her goals seemed to become more elusive, more distant, as if fading into the shadows of her endeavor. This, is where you must understand a transcendental truth about the cosmos. The universe operates through infinite channels, many of which remain invisible to human perception. When you insist on dictating the exact route to your desires, you often block the miracles already unfolding around you. The essence of universal wisdom is this: your role is not to design the how, but to keep the vibration of the what alive. The divine mind, with its infinite wisdom, is the orchestrator of the paths that, in your limited understanding, you could never have conceived. For Sylvia, the real change began when she let go of control over the process. Instead of clinging to her plans tooth and nail, she began each day in quiet surrender. By nurturing her vision with love and determination, she released the need to be tied to a single path to achieve it. Within days, opportunities arose through channels she had never anticipated, unexpected connections, and solutions that could never have been mapped out on a simple calendar. A man named Joaquin, a strategically minded entrepreneur who spent years forcing his way through rigorous plans, experienced this same revelation when his carefully outlined projects fell apart. In the empty space of that surrender, something miraculous happened. By letting go of his need to control every detail, he opened himself to infinite possibilities, to solutions his rational mind could never have imagined. A chance encounter, an unexpected conversation, led him to a partnership that fulfilled his vision in ways far grander than his original strategies ever dreamed. This surrender is not a passive acceptance, but an active trust. It is a profound recognition that the same intelligence that guides the stars in their celestial dance can orchestrate the manifestation of your desires in ways far more wonderful than your limited perspective can imagine. Practice. Every day, say these words with a soul full of faith. This or something better, by divine design. Then, serenely release control over the outcome. Free yourself from attachment to the exact form your dream should take, and trust that the infinite wisdom of the universe will guide your path to something far greater and more majestic than your mind could have ever envisioned. Make this declaration a daily reminder. By letting go of the how, you open yourself to receive blessings far beyond what your imagination can grasp. Chapter 28. You are the ritual. In a simple cabin surrounded by the harmony of blooming gardens, Liana delicately arranged her altar. Crystals were arranged with precision, candles were placed in perfect alignment, and softly scented incense filled the air. Yet, despite the perfection of every detail, something in her heart felt empty. She had fallen into the illusion that spirituality must depend on perfect external conditions, on an ideal physical space for connecting with the divine. The truth, whispered by the stars and the wind, is different. Your body is the living temple, your breath the sacred smoke, and your presence the highest offering. Every small gesture can become a blessing when you infuse it with mindfulness. The universe doesn't respond to the perfection of external rituals, but to the quality and depth of your being. Through your daily movements, the power to reshape reality flows. Every step can become a decree, every breath and affirmation a ceremony of creation. You don't need to seek out sacred spaces, because you are the sacred space, the living temple that receives and emits divine energy. Tomas, a simple man who worked in a factory, discovered this truth when his life seemed trapped in repetition. For years, he had sought transformation in complex nightly rituals, until he realized that his work itself could become his worship. He began to move with a new grace, imbuing each action with intention, and found that each repetitive task transformed into a sacred dance. His breath became prayer, his posture a declaration of dignity. He didn't change his routine, but his inner reality did. Chapter 27. Letting go of the how. In an office surrounded by the vibrant life of the city, Sylvia found herself trapped between mountains of charts, detailed lists, and meticulous schedules. Every morning, with fierce concentration, she reviewed her strategies, adjusted her action steps, and tried to impose her dreams on the will of her mind. However, as she attempted to precisely control every step of her journey, her goals seemed to become more elusive, more distant, as if fading into the shadows of her endeavor. This is where you must understand a transcendental truth about the cosmos. The universe operates through infinite channels, many of which remain invisible to human perception. When you insist on dictating the exact route to your desires, you often block the miracles already unfolding around you. The essence of universal wisdom is this: your role is not to design the how, but to keep the vibration of the what alive. The divine mind, with its infinite wisdom, is the orchestrator of the paths that, in your limited understanding, you could never have conceived. For Sylvia, the real change began when she let go of control over the process. Instead of clinging to her plans tooth and nail, she began each day in quiet surrender. By nurturing her vision with love and determination, she released the need to be tied to a single path to achieve it. Within days, opportunities arose through channels she had never anticipated, unexpected connections, and solutions that could never have been mapped out on a simple calendar. A man named Joaquin, a strategically minded entrepreneur who spent years forcing his way through rigorous plans, experienced this same revelation when his carefully outlined projects fell apart. In the empty space of that surrender, something miraculous happened. By letting go of his need to control every detail, he opened himself to infinite possibilities, to solutions his rational mind could never have imagined. A chance encounter, an unexpected conversation, led him to a partnership that fulfilled his vision in ways far grander than his original strategies ever dreamed. This surrender is not a passive acceptance, but an act of trust. It is a profound recognition that the same intelligence that guides the stars in their celestial dance can orchestrate the manifestation of your desires in ways far more wonderful than your limited perspective can imagine. Practice. Every day, say these words with a soul full of faith: this or something better by divine design. Then, serenely release control over the outcome. Free yourself from attachment to the exact form your dream should take, and trust that the infinite wisdom of the universe will guide your path to something far greater and more majestic than your mind could have ever envisioned. Make this declaration a daily reminder. By letting go of the how, you open yourself to receive blessings far beyond what your imagination can grasp. Chapter 28. You are the ritual. In a simple cabin surrounded by the harmony of blooming gardens, Liana delicately arranged her altar. Crystals were arranged with precision, candles were placed in perfect alignment, and softly scented incense filled the air. Yet, despite the perfection of every detail, something in her heart felt empty. She had fallen into the illusion that spirituality must depend on perfect external conditions, on an ideal physical space for connecting with the divine. The truth, whispered by the stars and the wind, is different. Your body is the living temple, your breath the sacred smoke, and your presence the highest offering. Every small gesture can become a blessing when you infuse it with mindfulness. The universe doesn't respond to the perfection of external rituals, but to the quality and depth of your being. Through your daily movements, the power to reshape reality flows. Every step can become a decree, every breath and affirmation a ceremony of creation. You don't need to seek out sacred spaces, because you are the sacred space, the living temple that receives and emits divine energy. Tomas, a simple man who worked in a factory, discovered this truth when his life seemed trapped in repetition. For years, he had sought transformation in complex nightly rituals, until he realized that his work itself could become his worship. He began to move with a new grace, imbuing each action with intention, and found that each repetitive task transformed into a sacred dance. His breath became prayer, his posture a declaration of dignity. He didn't change his routine, but his inner reality did. Remember, divine protocol flows through you. Your spine is the altar of your intentions, your heartbeat the drum of manifestation, and your eyes the windows through which the world is blessed. When you embody your desire, when you move, breathe, and live as if it were already fulfilled, you become the living prayer, the manifestation itself. Practice. Choose a daily action, walking, taking a bath, preparing a meal, and offer it to the universe as a sacred ritual. As you perform this action, infuse it with full presence, feeling the divine flowing through each gesture. Notice how your breathing deepens, how your movements become more conscious, more graceful. By performing this daily act with mindful attention, you transcend the mundane and enter the realm of the sacred, where each action becomes an offering to the infinite. Chapter 29. The Silent Dance of Destiny. In a modest corner of an old riverside town, where the seasons seemed to repeat themselves without interruption, lived a woman named Alma. Every dawn, before the world fully awoke, she would pause in front of her window, contemplating the stillness of the trees and the slow passing of the clouds. At first glance, nothing seemed different from one day to the next. However, Alma felt within her that beneath this apparent immobility, invisible forces were brewing, as if a divine potter were secretly shaping the vessels of her destiny. You too, reader, inhabit that space. You watch the horizon, await signs, wonder in the solitude of the night if everything you yearn for has vanished into the mists of universal oblivion. But what the eyes cannot see, the soul perceives. Because the universe, with its ancient patience, weaves its masterpiece in the hidden, like an invisible embroidery that only reveals its form when the plot is complete. Destiny doesn't burst forth like a flash of lightning from clear skies. It's more like the slow growth of a root that burrows into the dark earth, strengthening its grasp before revealing itself to the world as a stem. What we call delay is nothing but sacred preparation. Every apparent emptiness is filled with secret activity, and what we interpret as inertia is actually gestation. There was a man named Elias, a teacher in a small school forgotten by the maps. His days were spent among empty desks and dusty blackboards. Every morning, he carefully arranged the chairs, as if awaiting the arrival of an invisible crowd. And as he did so, he silently spoke words of hope, like someone leaving offerings to the wind. While people viewed his work as a pointless endeavor, the universe was making plans in his favor. Unbeknownst to him, new paths were opening up, agreements were forged in school councils, and families were looking for a refuge to take their children. One autumn morning, Elias arrived and, for the first time, found a line of parents waiting under the trees. Each empty desk was then transformed into an altar of learning. So it is with you. Great works are not forged in haste or under the gaze of the world, but in the darkness of the soul, in the sacred territory where faith sustains what is not yet seen. Like the seed that sleeps beneath the earth, your desire is not lost. It is growing roots, seeking its strength deep within. Practice. Find a corner where silence breathes with you. Close your eyes and let your mind draw the image of your most cherished desire. Don't try to see it with the eyes of logic, but with an open heart. Perceive how, behind the veil of time, invisible hands weave the threads of that longing. And when you feel it, whisper without fear, "I trust in what I cannot yet see." May this certainty settle in the corners of your spirit, reminding you that everything that is true is first conceived in mystery. Chapter 30. The Echo of Ancient Dreams. In a small village, lost among blue hills and roads that seemed drawn by a child's hand, lived a woman named Lyra. At first glance, she was like so many others. She made her tea every morning, petted the neighbor's dog, and greeted the old postman. But one day, between the smoke of her hot cup and the song of a thrush, Lyra perceived something. An ancient vibration, a subtle pattern that seemed to repeat itself in the smallest gestures. A leaf spiraling down, a coincidence in the words of two strangers, the number of steps between her house and the old oak tree. She understood then that nothing was random, that everything was part of a larger choreography, and that she herself was part of that design. And just as Lyra discovered it, you too carry that secret map within you. The universe not only created you, it dreamed you before you were even formed. In its eternal mind, it wove a sacred intention into the first breeze that caressed your skin at birth. Every step you took, even those you thought were mistakes, every detour, every loss, and every discovery, have been part of a tale older than the stars. When you understand this, you will stop chasing miracles, because you yourself are a miracle in motion. Your breath will be prayer, your word, blessing. You will discover that you don't need to practice distant rituals or seek answers in ancient temples, for the true temple is you, and every heartbeat is an act of creation. There was a man named Gale who spent his life gathering sacred symbols, collecting teachings from ancient sages, guarding prayers like one guards precious stones. But one evening, as the sunset tinged the mountains orange, he dropped his books and allowed himself to be silent. And in that instant, a laugh burst from his chest, for he realized that everything he sought outside had always lived within him. That's the awakening you're now approaching. It's not about becoming something higher, but about remembering what you always were. Like a wave that one day discovers it was never just foam, but a moving ocean. Practice. In solitude, without fearing your own voice, write the story of your life as if you were a mythical character, born from an ancient celestial dream. Begin with these words. Once upon a time, there was a spark of light that chose to forget its origin, to discover it through the days. Let your hand glide without censorship, without judgment, and allow the story to write itself. Read it every morning, not as fiction, but as the purest truth of your existence. Because in those words lies the memory of what you are, a sacred dream walking the earth. If you have come this far, it is because you want to learn more about Do This in secret and watch how the universe delivers you the impossible. If so, I recommend that you look at the first link in the description epilogue, the eternal echo of the call. If you ever thought this journey began with the first step, let me tell you that its origin dates back long before your heart first beat. It was forged in the silent forge of nameless days, in a time before time, when the great craftsman of destinies drew with fingers of light the path you recognize beneath your feet today. It was no coincidence that these words reached you. You were summoned here not by chance, but by an ancient whisper, an invisible song that resonated in the marrow of your spirit since before your birth. You found yourself traversing these teachings not as one stumbles upon new wisdom, but as one remembers a forgotten truth, hidden beneath the layers of everyday noise. This book, these pages that now rest in your hands, are not an end. It is not a closure, but a door that opens a crack toward a perpetual journey, toward a silent dance that will continue long after the words fade from your memory. Because true knowledge is not stored in the mind, but merges with blood and breath, becoming a melody that accompanies every step, every glance, every whisper in the wind. From today on, you will understand that the sacred is not found only in temples or altars adorned with incense, but in the smallest gestures, in the unspoken words, in the secret intentions that no one sees, but that the universe hears with absolute clarity. The moments when, in solitude, you raise your eyes to the sky for no apparent reason. The thoughts you sow in the midst of darkness, the desires you cherish without speaking. These are the true threads from which reality is woven. You will no longer need to search for signs in the stars or implore answers in the desert sand. Because now you know that infinity breathes within you. The supreme ritual is your very existence. Every breath can become a prayer, every word a decree, every silence a cradle where miracles are gestated, awaiting their sacred hour to blossom. Remember this: what appears to end is, in fact, a threshold toward a new perspective. Life itself is not a succession of closed chapters, but a tapestry that unfolds endlessly. The most powerful initiations occur not in solemn ceremonies, but in the everyday life of a sunrise contemplated in silence, in the warmth of an outstretched hand, in the courage to fearlessly wait for the uncertain. Every obstacle you encounter will now be a disguised invitation, an opportunity to trust more deeply. Every delay will carry a hidden seed of faith, and every apparent loss will be nothing more than a door to a greater gift, still invisible to the eye, but palpable to the awakened soul. From this moment on, you are no longer a wandering wanderer. You are the living testimony of an eternal truth. The divine protocol, what you once believed to be an external path, now inhabits every cell of your body, every space between thought and word. The entire universe, with its endless web of miracles and mysteries, conspires in favor of those who remember their origin. The power you once imagined distant, resting on sacred altars or in mountains of ancient wisdom, has been waiting deep within your spirit, like a seed that slumbers under the snow, patiently knowing that spring will come. And that spring is you. Let your steps be silent prayers. Let your life become a perpetual ritual. Let your breathing be a song without melody, but charged with pure intention. Honor what you cannot touch. Trust what has not yet been revealed. Because the greatest revolutions are born in the invisible realm, where only awakened hearts dare to look. This is not goodbye. It never has been. Rather, it is the hour when the veils fall, and you discover yourself as the keeper of the ancient fire, bearer of a flame that never goes out. Move forward, knowing that with every step you carry the wisdom of the ages and the tenderness of a promise the universe whispered in your ear, long before you learned to speak your name. May your step be swift, and your faith unwavering. Because now, you're not following a path. You are the path.